In partnership with Heritage Action, the Convention of States Georgia team helped their legislature successfully pass an election integrity bill into law. That legislation passed on the last day of session. Georgia Senate Bill 233, a bill establishing education savings accounts, achieved final passage in the legislature. Our team was instrumental in making contacts that helped ensure the bill's success. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, a bill that would preclude international organizations from asserting jurisdiction over Louisiana passed in the Senate. It now awaits action in the House. And with our team's help, an election integrity bill removing some federal influence over elections was passed in the Louisiana House, now awaiting action from the Senate side of the legislature. In Tennessee, the local COS team has partnered with Alliance for Defending Freedom and getting parental rights legislation through the Senate and awaits action from the House. In Mississippi, our 34 Ready legislation was successfully advanced by a legislative committee. Convention of States has announced upcoming Capitol rallies in several key states. Local supporters are invited to the Pennsylvania Capitol on April 10th and to the North Carolina Capitol on May 15th. Special guest speakers will include Mark Meckler, Michael Ferris, and Rick Santorum. The COS Virginia team released a video from their Capitol event with senior advisor Rick Santorum, and he shared his unique perspective on how the centralization of power in D.C. helped change his perspective on Article 5.
Is what I've seen as the evolution of what's the power structure in Washington. And I know it's been bad. It was bad when I first got involved, when I first got elected in 1990. But as a very close watcher of Washington, having been there for 16 years and then run for president a couple of times and been on Fox, worked for Fox, CNN, now I work with Newsmax. So I've been following this very intently for a long, long time. There is a change that has happened in Washington that we need to come to grips with. We don't care about the fiscal situation of the government. And what is the fiscal situation of the government? It's the power of the government. The more money the government has, the more power they have over you. And so they're not concerned about limiting the power of the federal government because they don't want to limit the money the government collects, borrows, and spends. Secondly, they're much more comfortable with abusing the power of the federal.
Mark Meckler made several media appearances over the past week, directing people to the COS website. His appearances included the Chris Salcedo Show and Flashpoint.
The government is practicing over and over how to get us to respond in an obedient way when they want us to just stay home and shut down, not really communicate, not be out in public with each other. They did this on a large scale with us during the COVID panic. That was all manufactured. It's now been proven. And this is just another test of the same kind of system.
The COS president also hosted a broadcast interviewing Convention of States interns to share how the Emerging Leaders program is equipping them to be statesmen as they grow into active citizenship.
Shared goal of each wanting to do our part and fulfill our civic duty here in America, I think that instantly bonds us. And I've been able to work in social media and communications a little bit in other jobs and internships throughout college. But it's my first time working in an actual comm shop. But we have writers and graphic designers and a store team, and then also us in social media. And I love being a part of telling the story and being a part of the narrative of helping people understand what Convention of States is and how important Article 5 is.
Utah State Representative and longtime champion for Convention of States Ken Ivory was this month's special guest on COS at Home. He shared his thoughts on the Biden administration's 30 by 30 agenda to seize control of private lands in America.
Jonathan, we got some counties in Utah, they have 3% taxable land. Imagine trying to fund education when you've got 3% taxable land and you got the federal government everywhere you're trying to do any kind of economic development, community development, affordable housing, any of that. No, we've got to get back to where we treat people equally, and that's going to benefit the whole nation, right? The engineering east of the Rockies, the agriculture equipment east, the whole nation benefits from that. And we could dig ourselves out of the debt. We could put ourselves on a path to economic prosperity, the likes of which we've never seen.
You've heard of Rosie the Riveter, that inspirational character who symbolized American women who manufactured war materials during World War II. Well, now it's time for a new hero, one who activates others in their community through texting and phone calls. Supporters are invited to name that texter at conventionofstates.com/texter. The COS Vermont team reports that their activists gathered nearly 100 petition signatures at a local gun show. COS South Carolina, meanwhile, collected dozens of petitions at events on St. Patrick's Day while educating locals about that pot of gold hidden in Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Finally, check out these snapshots from COS events going on around the country, including Texas, Louisiana, North Dakota, and New Jersey. And now, you're up to date with Convention of States.